Hi, everybody. This is Mark Cook for Kitplanes magazine. I'm here with Clyde Hamstreet of Hamstreet Associates. Now, if you've been following the Vans Chapter 11 bankruptcy situation that's been going on since last October, you've probably seen Clyde on video and you've heard some interviews with him. He's part of a sort of recovery process, an outside firm that was brought in to help Vans get through this very difficult situation and start its path to recovery. Clyde, thanks for joining me. I appreciate your time. I think we'll start off with what happened this week. On Wednesday, the reorganization plan that was submitted to the court was seen by the judge in Oregon and approved. That has to feel pretty good that all the hard work has met with approval from the courts.
Yes, we're very pleased with that. And we're particularly pleased with the high level of support the plan received. It's not often you get that level of support when creditors aren't paid 100 cents on the dollar. In this case, it's still a good return based on what people see in bankruptcies. But we're very pleased with the outcome. We thought we were going to have objections from the U.S. trustee, but he withdrew his objection. And other than one creditor who objected and the judge listened patiently, there was no other opposition, which is remarkable in a case.
I think it speaks to the fact that when Vans went to customers and said, listen, we have to recast our purchase agreements or agreements with you, there's something like 83% agreed to some newer higher prices. Now, it's not a small thing for a lot of builders, but it does signify the faith in Vans, or the fact that these people wanted to continue to build their airplanes. And as I understand it, by taking that 83% off, it makes the pool of unsecured creditors a lot smaller. Does that make your job a little bit easier?
Well, it makes the whole process a little easier. That means we have, it means the pool that we have available from future earnings gets spread across fewer people, so they get a higher recovery. So that makes it, we all feel better about that. And we have less upset customers.
So that group is then smaller. Now, I think we've reported before, but the overall plan for those who had declined the new agreement and get themselves put into the unsecured creditors loop is something like 55 cents on the dollar over 3 years. Is there anything more to that they should know?
Well, a lot of those creditors have a deposit, and under the bankruptcy code, $3,350 of that deposit gets paid in full. Those payments will be going out in the next 60 days. And then beginning of May of next year, the remaining balance, they'll get 1/3 of that, 1/3 the following year, and 1/3 the year after that. So, and those 3 years, those payments aren't the same every year. They kind of depend upon what their earnings were during that time, but the plan shows what they are. So, and the thing that I really was pleased about was, even though those people aren't getting paid, by far a large majority of them, I think it was 80-some%, still confirmed the plan. So they understood what was going on. And they said, I support the plan because it's better than what I think we might have gotten. I'm not sure why, just because they like bands or whatever, but it's remarkable.
Well, a lot of them have a big commitment already, and you could say that a significant portion of those that have airplanes well along, and they're protecting their own value even to their own cost, which is a fair assessment, I think. But I'd like to get some perspective on this. You've done a number of recovery programs with companies large and small. Is this typical, or is this atypical in terms of the size of the agreement going forward, and also sort of what people are going to get back for, as being an unsecured creditor?
Well, this sounds a little bit boastful, but we generally get higher recoveries than most people do in plans when they go into bankruptcy. But this is a good recovery. We feel good about it. We've got some that are higher, but we've had a number of them that were lower. I don't know that I've ever had any, and we've had this much support.
The obvious question is, where does the company go from here, right? You have the approval from the court. What are the next steps in getting Vans fully into this recovery mode and getting it back to being a healthy business?
Well, we still have a lot of backlog to fill, and we're working hard to get that filled. And one of the things that the president of the company, Mike Via, says is our first job is to take care of our existing customers. The first day I met him, he said that, and I thought he's absolutely right. Let's take care of who we've done business with, who our customers are now that they've wanted to buy planes from us, and we've modified that contract. We need to finish that contract as quickly as we can. So we right now are focusing on getting those kits out as quickly as we can. We are focused on taking the existing inventory we have and making the other parts that go with that. And we also have to take care of the laser cut parts and get those out. So those are two primary obligations that we have with existing customers. And as Michael says, if we get that done, the other stuff should take care of itself. Now, we don't expect to have the same level of orders in 25 that we did in 22 and 23, 21, 22, 23 with it. We think it'll be more like it was prior to COVID, and that's what we're counting on. And that could be kind of a slower year for us, but we have some new products in line, and we think that those are going to start showing up a year from now or so. And we're really excited about the future, but we still have a lot to do. We have to make our plant more efficient. We have to improve our ERP system so we know we have a better idea of what needs to be made, when it needs to be made, how much we have in inventory. And if we do a good job on that, we'll be able to cut our order times in half.
As I understand, there is a lot of sort of ground building that has to be done with the ERP or MRP, depending on your point of view, getting manufacturing more efficient. But I also understand you guys have been spending a lot of time, as you say, getting the laser cut part replacement going to builders, and that seems to be really accelerating. I hear from the field that a lot of people are surprised that they're getting them as quickly as they are. Nobody's super happy about it, but at least the parts are coming, and it seems like the more and more of the orders are being fulfilled complete. Is that sort of starting to show early results of some of this reorganization?
Yes, that's been a big focus for us. And we've had a team just working on that. And we thought it would be the end of the year or close to the end of the year before we're finished. We're going to beat that. We're already close to halfway through.
So in terms of the company itself, we've had obviously some reorganization going on with the personnel, the management personnel. What does this look like going forward? I mean, Michael is set up as interim CEO at this point. What do you foresee happening in terms of company organization?
Michael will he will be no longer interim. I think he wants to lead the company. Seems to be excited about it. Dick feels good about that. I think it makes good sense. We're going to have a strong board of directors instead of the company didn't really have a board before. Some of those will be outside people that have got good business skills. It won't be so managing themselves. There'll be some people outside that'll kind of keep a look at it. We're going to do a lot of focus on quality control. Not that quality was bad, but the laser cut deal and the corrosion, those are the two things that were the one-offs. And if we'd have caught that with quality, we probably wouldn't have been having to do that QA or the bankruptcy. We also need to look at what's going on in the industry as a whole. It seemed to me like there's going to be some changes going on. If they're talking about Mosaic, we're starting to see more interest in some of the planes that we are able to build and they're ready to fly for the schools that are doing the training. So we need to be a little more professional than we've been in the past.
So I'm curious to your perspective on the RV-15. I know that it's been discussed as, a future path forward for the company. Some people have said it is distracting the company from getting its recovery underway or continuing the recovery. What's your perspective on where that airplane fits in the whole?
Well, we think it's important to the future of our business because it's a new model. It's kind of a new market also. It seemed to be a strong market. The issue for us is we want to make sure, and this is Dick is very committed to this, the engineering team's committed to it, that it's RV. It flies like a Van's plane. And we will continue to make good kits on the other planes. There's still interest in those. But we're going to do the RV right. And so we hate to say it's going to be out on exact date, but we're trying to get a better handle on that date and when it gets out. We're putting a lot of attention to that, and Dick wants himself is very interested in seeing that that plane gets built the way he wants it to be built.
So let me switch gears just a little bit. You have relationships in the industry with the consumers, of course, but there's also suppliers in our industry, the Lycomings and the Hartzells of the world. How has it been to rebuild those relationships, and what kind of support have you been getting from them?
We've been getting pretty good support. We struggled a little bit with Lycoming at first, and I think that was more of less on a business level and more on attorneys to attorneys, and but that got resolved, and we've had a good relationship with them. We've had to change a little bit of our payment terms. They were concerned about that, but and we weren't real happy with the scheduling that we've had. We think though that that's going to improve. We expect it to improve, although we don't have any commitments to that yet. My experience is when you come out of bankruptcy, people look at your financial statements pretty carefully. But if they see that you're continuing to do business, they understand it. Things get back to normal in 12 months, sometimes sooner. I expect that's going to be the same story with our other suppliers. But they've all been supportive. We haven't had anybody that says, we don't want to do business with you. We don't. Everybody's been good in this case. And that's another thing that's been special about this. We haven't had anybody that's been so angry that they just wanted to hurt the company. Everybody's wanted to help.
Well, that's a good first step. Now, I know currently, if you were to purchase a kit and then buy a Lycoming, for example, and place your deposit with the company, those funds are segregated. Now, as I understand it, it's not a true escrow account in the traditional sense, but is it expected that that segregation is going to continue? I guess the real question is, how do consumers in the future know that what happened to guys ahead of them in line with their deposits? How do they know that's not going to happen to them again?
Well, that's a good question, and that's why we continue to do that segregation. We told the court we're going to continue to do that. The court seemed very appreciative of that. The U.S. trustee was appreciative of that. That's going to extend beyond the bankruptcy. We have to have the discipline that we don't use that money until we start production. If we had had that discipline earlier, we probably would have dealt with the problem much sooner than we did. But that is just, as long as Michael's involved, as long as I'm involved, I think as long as Dick is involved, there's going to be that segregated account.
I think certainly in the hands of the builders and pilots, the biggest concern is that Vans doesn't go and start making the same mistakes again. Everybody's been a little bit burned by this, and it's reassuring to know that the safeguards are up and the structure is put in place, that once this business sort of gets back on proper footing, that it keeps that footing. You've discussed a little bit about that, but I mean, what's your outlook for that? Do you feel like they're on the right path to maintain it?
I do. And I spent a lot of time with Dick. We visit a couple of times a week, sometimes almost every day. He does not, feels very bad about what happened. I've never seen anybody that has the customer's interest as much in mind as he does. He does not want anything like this to happen. If I've made a suggestion, I think, Dick, we should do this and why, he says, let's do it. He does not ever want to see this happen again. And he feels so good. And he was felt so bad about what had happened. He's put him and his family's savings, almost all their savings, back into the business. And for a man his age, that's a storybook. outcome. Because most people wouldn't do it. Their advisors would say no, their lawyers would say no. He said, I'm going to do it anyway.
My wrap-up question for you then, Clyde, is you're a specialist at this. We got them through, or you got them through the Chapter 11 reorganization plan. Where do you hand this off to the guys internally and step off and go fix somebody else?
Well, that's always up to Dick. But normally we're involved for, it varies for some companies. We are some companies where they have us continue to attend their board meetings. We've been there for 5 years, and those companies are doing well. Other companies we're like the dentists. We're important to have their teeth fixed, but we don't want to see you anymore. I expect that we'll be involved here for some time. But we have permanent people there to run the company now. They're committed to it. And that's who's going to continue to call the shots as we transition through here. And I think it's important we get a good outside board, which Dick's agreed with that.
That does seem to be one of those sort of bulwarks against the internal side of things getting out of hand, and it's the traditional role of a board in a company like this anyway. So, well, Clyde, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. I know you guys have been busy, and it must be a little bit of a relief to get through the reorganization approval, but then you sort of turn back to your desk and say, we got a lot of work to do. So, I wish you guys luck, and again, thanks for taking your time today.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate the time to visit.